Welcome, everybody. Please be joined by Matt Smith. And Matt, we both made it to and from Texas safely. So, nice to see you back here in Colorado.
Yeah. Last time in Texas this year, that was my one joy when we were leaving. I was like, "Oh, nice. Don't have to do this again the rest of the year," which is I mean, obviously would have been nice for a Big 12 championship, but that's not in the cards in 2025. So, outside of that, yeah, I mean, Fort Worth is the I was just telling you, is probably the lesser of all evils for Texas. It's a little cleaner, and we actually had really good weather. Game day was a stunning
Yeah.
day, which kind of shocked all of us down there on the field. So I'm back.
Yeah. Well, hey, I don't hope for your sake. I'm hoping against you that they can go like 4-2, 5-1, and get to the Texas Bowl, and we go back to Texas one more
No,
time.
I didn't even
Just
think
kidding.
about that. I didn't even think about it. It's all right. Hey, if that happens, sign me up.
Yeah.
I will have to swallow that pill to
Look, honestly, if
go
they're
back
at
down
this
there.
point, if they get to a bowl game, no matter which one it is, you
Yeah,
say, hey,
you'll take it.
they
You'll
righted the
take it.
ship and they did what they were supposed to. But um, obviously, that's not the focus right now. But
No.
clearly, Matt, the chances of getting there are dwindling because of the fact that they keep losing these games that they're right there for them, right? And I did some research this weekend. First time in program history that Colorado's had a 14-point lead in back-to-back games and lost both.
Wow. Wow.
Isn't that
That was good.
incredible?
I mean, that's how far back do you go?
That's their history.
You went all you combed through every game?
Well, I mean, CU has some of it in their media guide, and yeah, I went and found some others, and
Okay. I'm
so
just
yeah,
saying we've been back for like less than 24 hours. When did you do this?
I'm a research guru, Matt.
Clearly.
You know what
Clearly.
come on,
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. This is not my
Okay.
first rodeo, but yeah,
Okay.
and actually, it's rare that it's happened twice in a season, but they actually did it twice. They didn't lose both. They did it twice in their national championship season.
Is that right? Wow.
Two times the first 3 weeks. That was actually the closest they've come to doing it back to back weeks was the 1990 season. They were up 14 against Tennessee in the opener
Hmm.
and wound up tying that game. And then 2 weeks later, they're at Illinois. They're up 17-3 and they lost that game by one.
Why are ties still allowed at any level of football? Like, can you imagine if college
Well, they're not
football could
anymore,
still
but
end in well, like
yeah,
college football, but in the NFL, we just
yeah,
saw it.
yeah,
Ties are
true.
so stupid. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right,
But
so that was the first time ever. I mean, hey, look, you know, this team is not one that had been great at getting off at really fast starts.
yeah,
That's not really been a trait of the Coach Prime era, but the last 2 weeks, I mean, back to back, they got out of the chute, right? 14 nothing. Defense started fast,
mhm.
offense started quickly, and you could just feel it. Like I was texting somebody during the game, like, oh boy, like they had. I think it was the 2 minute warning, right? It was 14 to nothing, and it might have been second down when they hit the 2 minute warning in the first half. I was like, oh geez, somehow they're
Yeah.
gonna end this half tied. Like somehow it's gonna happen. And I think Caden threw an interception the first
It
play.
was just yeah, it was actually 14-7. TCU
That's what it was.
they just scored.
Right.
But yeah, CU gets the ball back and Micah 1 yard run, then it's a 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
And
And I
then
said to my friend, I was like, I look forward to seeing how they mess this up because it was like it felt like it was coming. I don't know what it was. It was just intuition, and it was
yeah,
tongue in cheek. I'm not trying to be a downer, but I was just like, this has been exactly where they've been getting tripped up. And
yeah.
sure enough, pick.
Well,
I was like, oh, well, isn't that just special?
I gotta tell you, I brought up with you last week. Do they go with Ryan Staub as their 2-minute quarterback? And we kind of I was half serious. I brought up again in the press box. I'm like, that that's why, two interceptions in the last 2 minutes of that half. And
Yeah.
I mean, the play you're talking about right after the 2-minute warning, um, we're sitting there like he's got Omarion Miller open for like 5 seconds. It's like you're watching him, just
Just throw it.
throw. And then he finally throws it, and it's like this line drive. It's like, no, you need to float it over to him. Amari
Yes.
Miller was wide open 8 yards behind Bud Clark, and Caden Thor's like, man, he must have like a 45-inch vertical. It doesn't matter. Put it up higher. Like, why are you throwing? I mean,
It was a
I,
bad decision. It was a bad decision. And then they almost erased it. After they gave up
yeah,
the touchdown, they almost erased it. It was like, wow, okay, finally, you executed it. Hit a couple of plays, the down Hayden run, got Omarion down there, got a
yeah,
big penalty, and then I know I've heard a lot of people. Well, you had a timeout left with 7 seconds. You can run the ball. I think that's a possibility. They could have played it like that, but the truth is they schemed Zach Atkins wide open, and Caden just
mhm,
tried to force it to Amarion, and
yeah,
and the DBs made a great play on it. But Atkins is open if he just looks at him, but he didn't. So
yeah,
look, I mean, it's it felt like at that moment though, it was like, oh boy, okay. Okay, it's just going to be another one of those weeks where they come pretty close. They put a lot of good stuff out there, and then they just did it to themselves.
yeah. And look, you pointed out last week that they were going into that game. They were playing their best football, right? I mean, they had
Yeah.
played really well against Wyoming. They had played pretty good football against BYU, just didn't close it. And they kept it up last week, right? I mean, I thought they played good football for a lot of that night, but just didn't close it. And that's the frustrating thing, I think, for the Buffs is that they're playing some decent football overall. And when Coach Prime says it's here or there, he's right. But Matt, this is the first time you know how much I've kind of defended Salter, right? I've kind of been like, nah, I think he's the guy. This is the first time this year that I thought they lost that game because of the quarterback.
Yeah, the whole time I was just sitting there and looking at the box score the whole game. It's like, okay, they're outgaining TCU. They've held the ball longer than TCU. They have more first downs than TCU. Higher yards per carry, higher yards per
Yep.
completion. Like there's absolutely no reason that they should be losing this football game, and yet the turnover margin was 3-0 after the first half.
Yeah.
What's frustrating is despite all of that, they still had opportunities in the second half, much the same as they did against BYU. But for some reason, offensively, they're really struggling to execute in the
Mhm.
second half. It is interesting, though. They scored right after BYU did to respond last week in the second half, and that was the same thing here. They score and then they
Yep.
tie the game back up, and it's like, okay, well maybe there's something there, but after that, they're just anemic,
Right.
and I don't
Mhm.
know that there's much rhyme or reason for it. Like you asked Coach Prime, and I saw Coach Prime was getting some people were getting on him for his answer, and you were like, "What's going on in the second half? Like, why are you guys struggling?" He's like, "If I had the answers, I'd tell you." And truthfully, I'm struggling to put my finger on it. Like, I know that the other teams are making some adjustments, but they're not earth shattering to the point where Colorado just all of a sudden shouldn't be able to execute.
Right.
And that's where I think they're kind of reaching for what's happening here because it's hard to put your finger on. And I'm sure there's a lot of people say, well, it's a combination of a lot of things, and it probably is. But in the midst of it all, it is very hard to identify because they're really okay. It's one week, here's these set of problems. Next week, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. This is popping up. Now, this is popping up. You think you
Yeah.
got this fixed. Now, here's this. And that's just tough. And then at the end, when the punt drilled Cam Michael in the back, it was just like, okay. Like the football gods are just not happy enough with the progress you're making
Well,
to give you a break.
I would say on that one though, I disagree on that one because I was sitting next to Romy Bean in the press box and she made the comment. She's like, "That's the football god stand." All right, we just screwed up on the previous play, TCU.
That's
Here,
what
you
I'm
get it
saying.
back. And
That's what I'm
it
saying. It's
is
just like you can't get any breaks. We're not going to
right.
give you any breaks. Now
That
we're
was
saying
that
the
was
same thing.
that was a yeah, I guess. But that was a total gift that CU got on the
A hundred
penalty.
percent.
And TCU, I saw Josh Hoover yelling at the refs. Like they should have been mad because that
Yeah.
was a
Oh, the
horrible penalty.
on the OPI. Yeah,
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 the
yeah.
OPI when two buffs ran into each other.
Uh-huh.
And then it was the next play, the punt hits off Cam Michael and they recover. I'm like, that's pretty close to where the ball would have been had there been no penalty. And so,
Yep.
that's exactly what should have happened. And it so yeah, that was an unfortunate error on the punt, but at the same time, CU was fortunate to be in that position anyway. But
A hundred. That's literally what I'm saying. It's
okay,
like
okay.
the break would have
I thought
been
you just meant that play on
no,
itself.
the break would have
Yeah,
been you got him off the field after just a horrible
yeah,
penalty against
yeah,
after they'd been gashing you. It was like four
yeah,
straight
yeah.
plays that got
Mhm.
called back. Or wasn't it six straight flags on TCU or something like
I don't
that
know.
that
It
got
was, it
called back?
was
it was pretty
I don't know if it
crazy.
was six straight, but it was quite a few. I mean, there were a lot of stuff that was going on.
Yeah, it was that one. It was just it was a really nasty sequence where they kept
Yeah,
getting beat, but they kept having it called back. So the point was is that it was just you didn't do enough work to earn some of those breaks where you kind of get lucky. And
yeah,
this team just feels like they haven't at any corner this year really gotten lucky.
yeah. And we mentioned the numbers, and you look at a lot of the numbers, Matt, and flipping to it right here. But like if you go into that game and you say you'll hold TCU to what was that? 369 yards of offense. Feel
Yeah.
pretty good, right?
Yeah, you
You,
think you at least had a shot to win.
you're gonna hold them to 369, under 100 yards rushing. Um, Josh Hoover under 300 yards. You'd say, yeah, I feel good about that. And but it's those turnovers, and it was funny. You asked Coach Prime after BYU if the defense gave him a shot, and he very quickly dismissed it. I tried that after this game, so I'm like, even more so this week, I thought they did, and he shot that down quickly. I think that he made a comment a few weeks ago that after a loss, he's like, the night of, he goes, you get mad about all the mistakes, and then you watch film, you start turning the page, and you focus on the positives. I just think the night of, he's not ready to focus on the positives, because you have to look at that defensively and say, yeah, that defense gave you a shot, absolutely, to win that game.
It held them in there. I don't know if it I felt a little bit different to be honest with you about the TCU game than I did the BYU game. I thought CU straight up gave away the BYU game. This
Yeah.
one I just thought they had a shot to win it. I don't know that they gave this one away
Mhm.
necessarily. I thought TCU was always going to make that competitive. It's hard to hold that offense down. They've
Oh,
got enough
competitive for
play
sure. Yeah.
they've got enough playmakers. Like last week, there was a point in the first half where you legitimately thought they could have just blown out BYU in the first half. That
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen this week. They got a good lead, but it wasn't going to be just an all out blitz. Whereas I thought it could have been last week if they had just not gone away from the run game. This week,
Yeah.
I didn't think it was really any of that. TCU's a solid team. It was a good environment, better than it was when we were there in 2023. I thought it was a much better crowd than 2023, in my
I
opinion.
don't know.
Anyway, the point was is that um, you're dealing with a team that, as Tawfiq Bayard said right now, can't close and can't finish,
Yeah.
and that's just not something that's easy to do. Like there's no recipe for that. There's no drill that you can rep. It's something about just being in that moment and being ready for it. And I think that's where Coach Prime's frustration has come when he talks about we just got some guys that aren't ready for the moment. This is just in every sense not a clutch team. You know,
Yeah.
when they need it, when you got to have it, they don't deliver. And that's
Yeah.
very frustrating because you came off of 2 years where Shador was the most clutch quarterback in the country, right? I mean,
Right.
if there was anybody in the country you could have handpicked to put the ball in his hands with, you had to have it type of a drive. It was Shador Sanders. And now
Yeah.
it's just completely gone. So here they are, and it's a weird spot to be in because they played some close games. But I think you're seeing a lot of the fan angst and anxiety because the expectations were set so high before the year. Whereas
Yeah.
if you had the expectations that you or I have, it's like, okay, it's been disappointing, but this isn't some sort of earth shattering year. There's so much noise from the outside because fans had a very inflated expectation of what this team was going to be capable of this year. And I understand that if a few things had gone a different way, we could be looking at a different season. But the fact of the matter is, you judge all ingredients in the recipe right beforehand. And you're talking about a lot of guys that hadn't played together before, a quarterback that was coming up to a new level. You're talking about replacing 14 major contributors last year on both sides of the ball, the Heisman winner, the best quarterback in the country, three other NFL receivers, an NFL edge rusher, a bunch of other guys who have made camps. Like if you look up and down this roster, how many NFL guys this year are there?
Not a lot.
I mean, who's
I
going
mean,
to the league this next year? So that's why
yeah.
I think that the talk of
Out
this is
of,
a
by the
better
way,
group,
that's a good question, especially on a team that has 38 seniors.
that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know how many guys they're going to put in
Your
camps.
NFL guys are not draft eligible, right? you know,
I think the guys
Jordan Seaton.
the draft candidates are not draft eligible.
Right.
No,
Right.
maybe DJ, but he would be a late round pick right now, if at all.
Om-
And he's almost
Omarion
guaranteed to come back next year now.
Omarion is draft eligible, and I think could have been drafted with a better season. Maybe if he has a great second half, he's a draftable type of guy.
Maybe late round guy.
Yeah.
So maybe two late round draft eligible guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, to think that this group is just going to all of a sudden like guys like, and no offense, I don't really want to single anybody out, but guys like Martavius French and Reggie Hughes, I mean, those guys came here with a chance to try and
Yeah.
put themselves on an NFL map, and I mean, they're nowhere near it.
They can't
So
they can't hold starting jobs.
right, and you know they're not alone. I mean, I just picked those two. So
Yeah.
the point is that we didn't know how many before the year. Maybe Xavier Hill is another
Yeah.
name on that list.
Arden,
Outside of that,
Arden, Arden Walker, Amari McNeil, if
potentially,
they're
yeah,
potential
late
guys.
round
Yeah.
guys. So maybe five potential late round guys.
Hmm.
Um, the point is that those guys aren't making enough plays consistently enough
Yeah.
right now, and they were supposed to be your leaders. And so without a defense that's capable of generating takeaways, which they just haven't been. The only takeaways they've generated this year were when Georgia Tech basically gave it to them.
Yeah.
And without enough playmakers who are consistent on a Saturday by Saturday basis, this is just kind of where they're at right now. And it's super
Yep.
frustrating for everybody involved. Like, well off, you could tell Coach Prime's getting more and more frustrated by the situation. I think the guys are as well, because
Mhm.
clearly they want to execute and they want to do well and they want to win games. It's just not working out right now. So I think there's a bit of a boiling point that they're coming to soon.
Yeah. And it's an interesting team, Matt, because you're right. I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at. I mean, defensively, they made a bunch of those impact plays last year, right? I mean, they wound up leading the Big 12 in sacks. Um, I'm trying to look it up as we're talking here. I think they're last in the Big 12 right now, aren't they?
It probably. I mean, they really haven't been getting to the quarterback.
They got a couple last week. They
I
are
don't know
last.
that.
They
Yeah.
are last. They're tied for last with Baylor and Iowa State, who comes here this week. Um, 6 sacks in 6 games. Or no,
Yeah, it's
8 sacks in 6 games. Sorry.
8 sacks in 6 games. Look, I
Yeah.
mean, they're just
And
the one thing I was pretty surprised at is they may not have gotten home a lot, but I thought they were able to move Hoover around
yeah,
more than they had, which was huge. That was why I thought they really had a chance and why defensively they did play well enough to at least keep their offense in the game. Like we knew after a certain point, we've known that their defense isn't going to be able to win you games. They have to score points. They just can't do it in the second half against
right.
Power Four teams. They're averaging 7.5 points per game scored in the second half against Power Four teams. You're not. It's not going to win you games unless you
Yeah.
blow out an opponent in the first half, no matter who you play. So it's a problem right now, and there is a lot of frustration.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's 56-20 is what they've been outscored second half of conference games.
Shoot. Oy.
And these are games that I mean, let's see, they're down 16-14 they have at Houston
Yeah.
and lose that 36
36-20.
to 620. So that's 20-6.
Mm-hmm.
They're no, they were leading BYU 17. What was
14-10.
14-10. Leading BYU 14-10, get outscored 14-7 in the second
Mm-hmm.
half.
Yeah.
And then they're tied the other night 14-14 and get outscored 21-7 in the second half. So yeah, I mean that's the story in conference play, right? Is your offense doesn't do anything in the second half, and it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. You mentioned it that there are only 2 touchdowns in the second half of the last 2 weeks. Are the other team scores are like, oh crap, and then they go score,
Yeah.
and they answer it. Then the one against Houston was a 2 minute. Then they score really late. It was like a 2 minute drive
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
of Houston,
Yeah.
and I think
Joseph
that
Williams.
yeah. So
The
so
game
yeah,
was over at that point. Yeah.
game was over. They were down. They were down 33-14,
Yeah.
scored with under 5 minutes left.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the deal is. I mean, obviously the main thing, Matt, is there's all these things, but quarterback. That's that's the top issue for this team, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of other things that are plaguing them just in general. Like we talked about it, just a lack of leadership, a lack of voices, a lack of talent in specific positions, um, some situational screw ups, and I would say on their on the fly awareness of what they need to do in games is still struggling. They're doing
Yeah.
a much better job coming up with game plans for games. Like they came up with another really good game plan, but
Mhm.
they're really struggling to throw the proper punches throughout the fight to end up with the one with their gloves raised at the end. So
Yeah.
quarterback is clearly a problem. However, this is also what you and I kind of prepared everybody for a couple of weeks ago, where look, this is the gauntlet stretch, and they're right in the middle of it, right? Even though they've actually played better than I think we anticipated heading into it, and they probably had a chance to win both of those games. Where if you were to have asked me a couple weeks ago, I mean, maybe they would have had a chance, but I think they've been rather competitive in the first two of this four
Yeah.
game stretch. Now, that being said, as much as everybody wants to make changes and point fingers, they have to keep going the way they're going the next 2 weeks because they don't have a
Yeah.
choice. They've just got
Yeah.
to ride it out the next 2 weeks.
That
And
quarterback. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at quarterback in a lot of places, I don't know how much sense it makes because I had a lot of messages from people. Well, he threw 3 interceptions. It can't really get worse. Hell yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you get blown out. They haven't been getting
Yeah.
blown out. You can
Right.
get absolutely blown out of the water, and you want to get blown out. Start a freshman in his first true start, even off a bye with 2 weeks to prepare against Kyle Whittingham and that defense, and watch your team get blown out because it'll happen. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
guarantee for me. They got first round ends, like they got legitimate NFL players on that defense.
Yeah.
Even with a good offensive line, Juju is going to struggle. It's just
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
here's the other part of this. I want fans out there to realize one thing. Coach Prime's very frustrated with how everything's going right now.
Hmm.
If he felt like Julian Lewis were ready, he would go to Julian Lewis
Right.
in a heartbeat. It
Yep.
would be done already.
Yep.
So he understands that they're between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. I think Caden Salter's their best option if they want to win football games, and
Yeah.
I think that's a frustrating option for
Hmm.
them right now. I mean, I think he's clearly frustrated, and we were trying to, you know, analyze his answers the other day. Really after the last two games, he's not saying anything bad about Caden Salter. He's
Anything,
been
basically
he's
anything
been very
about him.
careful about that. He was asked about after TCU or after BYU, how do you think Caden Salter played? And I think he said he made some wonderful plays,
Yeah, he
and that
did
was
some
all I
nice
said.
things. I think it
He did
was
some
he
nice
did some
things,
nice
something like
things.
that. He didn't say a whole lot this last week, other than he's like, guys, I see what you see.
Hmm.
Which we were talking about the press box, and our interpretation is he's basically saying, you see he's struggling. I'm seeing it too. Go ahead, write it.
Yeah, I just can't say it. He's like, it's just gonna, it's, if I say it, it could crumble everything
Right.
because we don't have another option right now. So I got to just play it a little bit more politically than I probably would otherwise. If he had another option, he would take it right now. The halftime speech they put on Well-Off, he was furious with
Yeah.
Caden. I mean, now
Mhm.
Caden threw 3 interceptions the first half, obviously, and the sequence in the last 2 minutes was a disaster. But like in front of the rest of the team, it was pretty clear he was angry with
Yeah.
Caden Salter. And there's not much more runway there. There's just not,
Yeah.
which I think it's 2 more games. I think he's got 2 more games. And if they can find a way to win one of them, then I think he might buy himself the Arizona game. But if he probably does buy himself the Arizona game. But
Yeah.
if they don't, it gets interesting because then you've got Arizona, West Virginia, Arizona State, and Kansas State. And we've talked about this. If you care about the red shirt, you do. At this point, I think we're kind of getting to the stage where they're just going to burn it and say screw it and hope that maybe he gets 5 years. But either way, we just can't go on like this anymore because
Yeah.
at a certain point, you've got to start to re-recruit your own roster. And there's some very important pieces that you just can't jeopardize it losing here. I think we all understand what I'm talking about. And you've got to give Juju a chance to show if he's the guy. Now, I guess the disaster part of that would be okay. You lose one of the you lose both the next two, maybe one in blowout fashion, maybe even the Utah game you get stomped. I don't know. Let's just as a hypothetical, you put Juju out there and he doesn't play well, then I think you're in a really big spot of
Yeah.
trouble. But
Well, but I think yes, but I think if you're 2-6 going into that, I think you make the switch and you go to
oh, you have
Juju
to.
and you see what you have. And if he doesn't play well, I
That's what I'm
think
saying. That's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
but I think that's why you need to do it is, I mean, at that point, if he doesn't play well, it's a lost season at that point anyway. And you now know, all right, we better hit the portal, you know.
But he's got to play well enough to convince the guys around him that he's going to be worth sticking around for. That's what I'm saying. Like
Right, right.
even he doesn't have to play great and win a bunch of games. He just has to show not only the coaching staff but his teammates that there's some promise there. So it's like, okay, he might
Right.
not be ready right now, but come fall of next year, to show a guy like Jordan Seaton that he wouldn't be wasting his time rolling the dice, sticking
Right.
around for what he
Right.
would hope to be his final year of college football if this guy who was supposed to be the be all end all doesn't turn out to be that guy. Now
Yeah.
they've been in practice every day, they've seen each other, but as we've seen, things can look different when the lights are on in the game. So
Yeah.
the only point here is that yeah, you're gonna have to re-recruit everybody, and the way you're gonna do that is have to show them that there's some promise there with Juju for the future.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean that's what I mean is, if you're 2-6, you just play, you give him November to find out what you have.
Yeah,
And figure
probably,
that
and
out.
just
And
say
so,
screw the red shirt because they really don't even have a choice right now.
yeah, I mean, Caden can give them a choice. I mean, if
Yeah, by
Caden,
winning some games. Yeah,
yeah, and I think they're capable of winning this week.
me too.
And so, just like they were capable, I mean, it's crazy that we talk about this gauntlet 4 game stretch, and I think they should be 2-0 in that stretch so far. And you got a winnable game come up against Iowa State, and so um, it's interesting to see what they'll do, Matt. So
I
just
mean, that's just part of the equation right now because I mean, as you asked him about after the game, and we noticed on Tuesday, but there is something wrong with Coach Prime. So
yeah,
I hope he's doing okay right now. And today was the doctor's appointment, and I guess we might hear a little bit more about it. But he said he's worried about his blood clots having returned, which, if I'm not mistaken, I remember hearing some of those conversations of some of those videos when he was going through all that, before year one, et cetera, about how that's a possibility of things like that returning and,
right.
what the implications could be and what the decisions he was going to have to make were about the toes and the foot and everything like that. So I'm just praying that everything's going to be okay because from a
Yeah.
human perspective, man, it's just, oh my gosh.
Well, that's a whole other thing that this season changes dramatically based on this doctor's appointment in some ways, because yeah, and we'll probably get into this later this week if we find out an update on him. But like if he's got blood clots and he has to have a surgical procedure again, like he did 2 years ago. He had it in the summer, remember, and that knocked him out for a little bit. He missed the Big 12 Pac-12 media day at the time. Um, if he can't be on the sidelines and coach for a few weeks or even the rest of the year, I think that changes, what the rest of the season looks like too. And there's no point in speculating. We'll see if what happens with that. But I think you and I are both in agreement here. Let's just hope and pray that things go well for Coach Prime. I mean, it'd be best if he's out there, but certainly, it's he seemed very frustrated, not only with the team, but he seemed very
Yeah.
frustrated with his physical
Yeah.
setbacks again. He's been through a lot, man.
No,
If you go back 2021 at Jackson State, between having the toes amputated and the circulation issues that popped up or that stayed with him, that led to him having the surgery 2 years ago to now bladder cancer, and now he's dealing with this again. Yeah, that's a lot of serious stuff going on for a guy that is 58 years old, and well, for anybody, but a guy that's 58 years old.
it was for anybody.
Yeah,
I mean, the amount of mental toll that takes on you, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year after we found out his diagnosis. I told you, as far as like non neurosurgeon jobs, this is as tough of a job as there is out there. Being a D1 head football coach, the amount of time and effort that goes into doing it properly and the amount of stress that it brings. And clearly, he's got a lot on his mind already. And I agree with you. The way he said that to us made it seem like he was extremely upset about it.
Yeah.
And I haven't really seen him like that before, which tells me that his intuition doesn't think it's going to be all that great. So, again, we're not going to speculate on anything. I'm hoping the best for him. I am, because
Yeah.
that's where it really takes precedent over football. That the football stuff, honestly, I mean, yeah, he's getting paid a lot of money and there's a lot
Yeah.
into this right now, but just as a human being, that stuff's more your life's more important, man. It just is. And
Yeah.
he is a warrior, and he wouldn't be beyond putting himself and sacrificing a little part of himself to honor the commitment that he's made to some of these players and parents and families and the university, et cetera, et cetera. But it feels like if that was what he was dealing with again, we're at the point where he can't really sacrifice much more of himself
Yeah.
for other people. And I don't know who wouldn't blame him for if he had to take some time away, then he has to. I mean, he's
Yeah.
the one good thing is that he's assembled a staff with a lot of experience that if they had to get through, we've been on some, we've covered some teams here where if something had to happen to the head guy, you'd be like, oh God, what is the rest of the year going to look like with some of
Yeah.
these goofballs that he's hired, but not this staff. You wouldn't
Yeah.
worry about that. So, again, I'm really hoping that's not the case, and I'm hoping that everything's okay. But it's clear that he's in a lot of discomfort because he doesn't really like to talk about when he's not feeling well, and he can't really hide it right now. Which, I mean, speaking from what I'm going through and just a minute part of this, I mean, when you get to that point, it's pretty serious. So
Yeah.
let's just hope everything's okay.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that, and I think that's probably a good way to wrap this up. I know we want to come back later this week, preview the Iowa State game. Plus, we'll know more, as far as
Yeah.
Coach Prime is going and things like that. So, Matt, I think that'll do it for us today, and I'll see you in Boulder this week, and fans, we'll be back later on this week to preview the Iowa State game.
By the way, like and subscribe. We never say that. Like and subscribe. Always do it. I mean, we see you in the comments. Make sure you're liking and subscribing.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Matt. We'll see you this week.